Every mystery begins with one thing: a clue. Welcome to the clues. Some cases begin as tragedies, but end as something far darker. Stories where the truth is buried for decades beneath assumptions, misdirection, and the power of a badge. And this is one of them. Sherri Rasmussen was a 29-year-old nursing director in Los Angeles, admired not just for her intelligence but for her compassion. She was the kind of a person everyone remembers, someone who lifted others up, who cared, who built a reputation early in her career as a rising star in the hospital administration. In the mid 1980s, she married the love of her life, a young engineer named John Drayton. They had a peaceful, happy life together, but behind this calm exterior was a storm Sherry didn't fully understand, and the one she couldn't outrun. On February 24th, 1986, John left early for work as usual. Sherry had planned to attend a training program that morning, but decided to stay home because she wasn't feeling well. John didn't know it, but that decision, that single ordinary choice, would place her directly in the path of something terrifying. When John returned home around 6 p.m., he noticed something immediately wrong. His garage remote didn't work. The house looked disturbed, and inside, he found a scene that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Furniture was overturned, a vase shattered, their home ransacked. Sherry lay on the living room floor, beaten, shot, and bruised, with a body staged near broken glass. Panic exploded through him as he realized she was gone. Police arrived and quickly formed a conclusion. Too quickly. They determined it was a burglary gone wrong. Two men had broken in, startled Sherry, and panicked. They said there had clearly been a struggle. The home looked messy. A few items were missing. Her BMW had been taken and abandoned nearby. The narrative wrote itself. The burglary theory seemed obvious. Two burglars had been working in the neighborhood that week, and Sherry's house looked ransacked. Her car was missing. A detective quickly concluded this must have been surprise intruders, fought back, and had been murdered in the struggle. And just like that, the case was labeled a burglary homicide. First, nearly everything valuable in the house was untouched: Sherry's jewelry, electronics, and expensive wedding gifts. Butlers don't leave valuable behind. Second, the fight inside the home was extremely personal and violent. Sherry had defensive wounds everywhere: bruises, bite marks, torn fingernails. This wasn't a quick struggle with a panicked thief, it was a prolonged, furious, almost emotional attack. Third, the gun used was a .38 caliber revolver, a weapon commonly carried by LAPD officers at that time. The killer had taken the bullets, leaving no casings, which also suggested training and intention. Still, despite all these signs, the case stayed labeled as a burglary. But Sherry's family didn't believe it. From the very beginning, her father insisted that the crime scene didn't match a burglary. Nothing valuable had been taken except the car. Sherry had been shot 3 times with a gun pressed against her chest, an execution style killing, not the panicked firing of amateur burglars. And the house didn't look naturally ransacked, it looked staged, artificial, controlled. Still, investigators dismissed the concerns. They had a problem, but not only the one they thought. The real problem was they ignored everything that didn't fit their theory, especially the biggest red flag of all. Before her death, Sherry had been terrified of women. She told her family repeatedly that a female police officer, someone John had briefly dated before their marriage, had been stalking her, following her, and harassing her. This woman had shown up at her home uninvited, had confronted her, and had made comments that unsettled Sherry deeply. Her name was Stephanie Lazarus, and at that time she was an LAPD officer. Sherry had told her family that Lazarus frightened her, even saying, "If anything happens to me, look at her." But when Sherry's father brought this to detectives, the information was simply discarded. A police officer, a potential suspect. They didn't even write it down in the official case file. Instead, the investigation closed with the simple explanation that the burglars must have panicked. Case solved. Sherry's death was ruled a robbery gone wrong, and her family was left to grieve without answers. Years passed, then decades. The case gathered dust in storage. John eventually moved on, and life continued. But the truth, the real truth, waited, locked inside a cold case file. Everything changed in 2009. A detective in the LAPD's cold case unit reopened the Rasmussen file as part of a routine review. When he looked at the crime scene photos, without the biases of the original investigators, something stood out immediately. The injury on Sherry's body looked personal. The scene didn't resemble a robbery, it resembled an attack filled with rage. And then, something even more striking, a bite mark on Sherry's arm. That meant the killer had left DNA. A swab had been preserved in evidence storage, and now, decades after the murder, DNA technology had caught up. The forensic team tested it, fully expecting to see a male burglar's profile. But the result revealed something that shattered the original story. The killer was a woman. Suddenly, the burglary theory collapsed. Suddenly, Sherry's warning, the one investigators ignored, came roaring back to life. The cold case detective followed that thread and quickly discovered the name that had been left out of the file: Stephanie Lazarus. A name never documented, never questioned, never investigated. By 2009, she wasn't just an officer, she was a respected detective in the LAPD art theft unit, a veteran with decades of service, a woman trusted by her colleagues. She still carried a gun, still worked cases, still wore the badge. Investigators now had to gather DNA from her, but without alerting her, because if she sensed anything, evidence could disappear. So they devised a simple plan. They followed her into a public cafeteria inside the LAPD building and watched as she finished a drink and threw away the cup. Detectives retrieved it in seconds. The DNA from her straw was tested, and the results came back with chilling clarity. It was a perfect match. The bite mark on Sherry Rasmussen's arm had been inflicted by Stephanie Lazarus. The truth arrived like an earthquake. Detectives now pieced together what really happened. Lazarus, angry and jealous over John Ritton's marriage, had confronted Sherry at home. Sherry, tall, athletic, and strong, had fought back. The struggle was intense. Furniture's overturned, bruises on both sides. But Lazarus had a police issued firearm, training, and control. She shot Sherry 3 times, staged the house to resemble a break in, and stole her car to support the narrative. Then she turned back to work as if nothing had happened. On June 5th, 2009, detectives called Lazarus into what she believed was a casual meeting. She walked into an interview room unarmed, a necessary precaution they had taken by asking her to lock her gun away first. Minutes into questioning, her composure cracked, and eventually she was arrested for Sherry's murder. In 2012, more than 25 years after Sherry's death, Stephanie Lazarus was convicted of first degree murder and sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. For Sherry's family, it wasn't justice in time, it was justice at last. The case remains one of the most shocking examples of how power, bias, and institutional loyalty can bury the truth, and how persistence, forensic science, and time can uncover it again. It reminds us that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones you least expect, the ones you wear authority, the ones who believe they can't be questioned, and in the end, Sherry's voice, ignored in life, finally spoke through the evidence that never lied. What do you think? Was the case ignored because detectives truly believed the burglary theory, or because the suspect was one of their own? Let me know in the comments. And if you like more deeply analyzed true crime cases like this, subscribe. This is The Clues. Every story hides a secret.